Okay, this is Life by Design. 5 steps to reclaim your time, reconnect with your family, and create a career you love as a mom in medicine while creating the income of your dreams. Now, who is this for? This is for women and moms in medicine, dentistry, chiropractic medicine who are overworked, overwhelmed, and tired and are looking for a new way to bring balance and freedom back into their lives and joy and fulfillment back into their careers. Now, in the next 45 to 60 minutes, we're going to talk about the secret to creating a career you love, even if you feel like the system is in complete shambles with no hope for reform. Why putting yourself first for once is vital, and how to make that shift without feeling selfish or guilty about it. We're going to talk about how you can leverage your medical degree, your dental degree, your chiropractic or veterinarian degree to create a profitable second career within or outside of clinical medicine if you desire to. We're going to talk about the real way to find fulfillment in your career without giving up being a medical professional if you don't want to, and even if you completely hate your current job. We're going to reveal how you can do all of this and still have more time for yourself without sacrificing time with your family, even if it feels like you don't have one more minute in the day. And we're going to share with you how to create the time to take care of yourself and do the things that you enjoy without adding additional stress or overwhelm and without feeling guilty about it. My promise to you is this. We're going to create a step-by-step strategy for creating systems that will allow you to truly be present with your family and get your much-needed you time while still growing your income, enjoying what you do, leveraging your degree, and feeling like you're making a difference in your field and in your career. Now, before we go any further, though, I want to check in with you. Can you relate? Does this sound like you? Do you come home each day completely exhausted from work, feeling like you have nothing left to give your kids and your spouse? Are you staying up till 12, 1, 2 in the morning trying to finish work or charts when you'd rather be sound asleep like the rest of the house? Do you feel like you're stuck in a prison at work or in your career, and is it making you miserable? Are you pouring yourself into work, meanwhile feeling undervalued and underappreciated? Is the endless grind of work robbing you of time that you could and would rather, frankly, be spending with your family? Do you feel guilty about wanting to take even just 15 minutes to yourself at the end of the day, even though you're completely tapped out? And how about this one? Do you secretly envy your non-medical friends who are getting those massages, having those regular date nights, and getting to attend all their kids' school functions while you miss out because of work obligations? Do you sometimes lay in bed at night miserable, completely dreading having to go to work the next day and wondering why you're still doing this? And do you feel sometimes powerless, trapped, resigned, and even a little pissed off because it feels like no matter where you go, the system is flawed and you will continue to be held to this impossible standard? Well, if you said yes to any or all of these questions, I have some good news for you. While those are all problems, they're not the real problem. The real problem is that you haven't yet made what I like to call the 5 shifts. Now, once you make these shifts, you will wake up in the mornings looking forward to going to work instead of dreading the day, knowing that you're appreciated for the work that you do, serving your patients or clients to the highest standard, and making a difference in your field. You'll be getting home from work hours earlier, having those dinners with your family, getting cuddle time with your significant other, and you'll be getting that time just for you that you need to decompress at the end of the day. You'll be on your way to a career you love that you design rather than a career inherited through social and societal norms and determinations. You'll have the energy to be fully present with your children and your partner, experiencing more fun, more laughter, and making lasting memories and experiencing those priceless moments. What you need to know is this: there are 5 simple shifts that you need to know to move you from burnout to balance so that you can create the career and the life of your design. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how to make those shifts today. Before we go on, let me just take 1 minute to introduce myself so you'll know why the heck you should be listening to what I have to say. I'm a family practice trained physician, and I'm also the assistant clinical professor to Morehouse School of Medicine here in Atlanta, Georgia, but also I'm the 10-year owner of a solo integrative medicine practice. Throughout my time in practice as an integrative medicine practitioner, I've also been a coach, and I've helped hundreds of doctors and medical providers on their journey from burnout. Now, I've provided several trainings on burnout at institutions from Emory University to various hospitals around Atlanta, and most recently, I led a workshop at the International Conference on Physician Health. But perhaps the most important and what I love most about my life is that I'm a mom. I'm actually a single mother of an almost 3-year-old beautiful son. And let me tell you, I'm sure you can relate, he is the world to me. So I enjoy my life. I love what I do, and I have created my career and my life by my own design. But it wasn't always like this. In fact, I actually created my career as a result of going through the same pain that I've coached and trained hundreds of doctors in. Now, I've had two experiences of burnout in my career. The first in residency before they even had language for it, and the second just a few years ago in 2012. And what I learned on my journey was this: you can make changes to fix the circumstances. And I did. I made all kind of circumstantial changes. But unless you make these 5 shifts, you're just putting a band-aid on a festering infected sore. And eventually that sore will seed and spread, and you'll end up septic and so far gone that you lose a very vital part of your being. And I've not only personally experienced this in my discovery of these shifts, but I've seen it over and over again in the doctors and the medical providers that I've coached. So we're going to talk about what these shifts are and what you need to know to move from burnout to balance and to create a life and a career of your design. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into those right now. Now, the first shift that you have to make is to be willing to get out of your own way. And what I mean by that is you need to get your mind right. There has been a ton of research that has shown the correlation between state of mind and performance and behavior. In fact, there are tons of books about it. Think and Grow Rich, Change Your Mind, Change Your Life. And there have even been TED Talks about it. Social psychologist Allison Ledgerwood, in her TED Talk, shares about an experience that she conducted where they told a group of people about a new surgical procedure and then assigned them to 2 random groups. In one group, they told them that the procedure had a 65% success rate. And the other group, they told them there was a 35% failure rate. So this is glass half full versus glass half empty. They found that the people that they told the glass half full group, when they asked to rate the procedure, they actually said that they liked the procedure. And the 35%ers, or the glass half empty group, when asked to rate, said that they did not like the procedure. But then she added a little twist. She told the group of 65%ers that what that actually meant was that the procedure had a 35% failure rate. They in turn changed their minds and decided that they didn't like the procedure. But the most interesting part is that when she reframed the success rate in the second group, the 35%ers, to that meant it was a 65% success rate, that group still did not like the procedure. So Allison thought this was very interesting, and she replicated this experiment in a couple of different settings and got the same results. So what does that even mean? What that means is that we are more easily pulled into negative thinking, but not so easily pulled out of it. Think about it. How easy is it for you when you're trying to exercise or start a healthy eating plan? How easy is it for you to fall off the wagon? But how hard is it for you sometimes to get back on? Similarly, when you look at 2 patients with the same disease and different mindsets, who's likely to have the better outcome? Is it the one who knows that they're at the source of their life and takes the initiative to make their lifestyle changes and has a positive mindset? Or is it the one who is just like, fix me, doc, I don't want to change anything, and has a completely doom and gloom and negative mindset? Well, of course, it's going to be the former. So when you get this shift right, the clouds of resignation and hopelessness will lift, and you'll be able to see new possibilities, pathways, and opportunities that allow you to get more time for yourself without sacrificing time for your family, and that allow you to see the new possibilities in creating that career of your design. But if you get this shift wrong, you will continue to stay stuck, unable to see those new possibilities, and therefore you'll continue to remain a victim to your schedule, to your job, to your life, draining your energy and robbing you of precious time that you should and could be spending with the people you love. So, how do we actually shift that mindset then? We first have to get that we are responsible for our lives. We are responsible for our choices, our happiness, and the way our life is going. Here's the thing, many doctors go around completely blaming the system for the suffering of physicians and healthcare workers. And yes, the system is flawed, but when you only blame other people for what's happening in your life, you give up all the power. And look, ladies, there's no power in being a victim. When you get that you are the source of your life, then you can get that no matter your circumstances, you can create workability, happiness, and fulfillment. Does it take work? Yes. Does it take openness to change? Absolutely. But what it also does is it leaves you with more power to create the freedom in your life that you want. But you can't just ignore that the system is flawed, can you? Of course not. Certainly, the practice environment, electronic medical records, demanding patients, overloaded schedules, bureaucracy and politics, and the culture of medicine are all contributors to our exhaustion, our overwhelm, and our burnout. But these are factors over which we have very little control. The truth is, ladies, is this: the system is unlikely to change. Bureaucracy will continue. Electronic medical records will continue to be tedious. Patients and schedules will continue to be demanding. And so, how we solve this dilemma is to get at the source of our own lives and look at what we can do in the meantime to get what the system isn't giving us. So, part of getting out of our own way requires that we eliminate our own stinking thinking, otherwise known as limiting beliefs. Now, limiting beliefs are negative thought patterns or negative tapes that play in our heads over and over, and they give rise to a loss of power. And what we know is that when we experience this loss of power, this feeling that we have no power, there's no freedom, there's no change, and there's certainly no results. So let's look at what some examples of limiting beliefs are. The first is, it's not possible. Having what I want is not possible. Creating my ideal career and my ideal life is not possible. It's probably one of the pervasive, it's the source of our cynicism and our resignation. It's not possible. The second is, if I need or ask for help, I look weak. Or worse, if I need or ask for help, I am weak. A third one, I should know all of the answers. And if you think about it, this is, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, part of our conditioning. We'll talk about that in just a moment. The belief that I have to be perfect. I have to get it all right all the time. That's another version of that. And finally, the belief that I have to do it all by myself. Now, I'm sure that you can think of other beliefs, negative thoughts that play in your head or that have played in your head in the past. What others can you think of? So, I want to talk about a case example, a pediatric emergency medicine doctor, mommy client of mine, who, when she came to me, was working 14, 15-hour shifts, 3 to 4 days a week, when really she was only scheduled to be doing 12-hour shifts. She was so exhausted that she was barely able to be there and be present for her 10-year-old son. And she and her husband were like ships passing in the night. When she came to me, she was exhausted and she initially could not believe that there was any other solution to her problem. So the first thing we had to do was we had to deal with her limiting belief, I can't change my work situation, therefore it would be impossible to make this work, to get more hours in the day. So of course, the first thing we did was we dealt with the limiting belief that getting off 2 hours earlier was impossible. And when we dealt with that, it freed her up to be able to have conversations with her colleagues and the staff so that she could begin leaving work right on time. And let me tell you, within 2 weeks, she had had those conversations, she had made those changes, and she was getting home a full 2 hours earlier than she used to. That means she got 2 more hours of sleep after each shift that she had not been getting, had more energy to be with her son on those days off, and she actually had time to begin to do the things that she enjoyed, that she was interested in, and that she loved. And furthermore, she was able to begin spending more time, more quality time with her husband. And so, in turn, that deepened their relationship. So, this is the power of mindset in one small example. Getting responsible and being at the cause of your life, not the effect, and dealing with your limiting beliefs is really one of the major keys to shifting mindset. Now, the second shift that you must make is to step off the mental hamster wheel and stop doing what you're told. Now, I'm going to say something that may sound a little shocking. You may not realize it, but we as medical professionals, we've been trained to be brainwashed robots doing what we're told. It's our conditioning. You were conditioned from the day you chose to be in the health profession. And so, in order to overcome this conditioning and step off the mental hamster wheel, you must first recognize it and understand it. For example, we doctors, we were told how to get into medical school. This is what you need to do to study for the MCAT. Here's what you say in an interview. Then we were told how to get through medical school, how to study, what old tests to look at, then how to pass your board, step 1 and step 2, and how to get into residency. And even in residency, we were told how to treat patients, what protocols and algorithms were there. And after your training, the hamster wheel just continued. The politics, this is the way we do things around here. And whether you're a doctor, a dentist, a PA, a nurse practitioner, a chiropractor, you likely experience some of the same things. The truth is that it was if you had been on a moving sidewalk, and every time one ended, there was another moving sidewalk for you to jump right on. And after a while, you just stopped thinking about it. You just got off one moving sidewalk and on to the next, and the next, and the next, waiting to take you to your next destination. And some of us for 13 years. Imagine that kind of conditioning. So when you get this shift, it'll free you from the massive guilt of not being able to handle the pressure, or of looking weak, or of even thinking differently, and it'll free you from the fear of being labeled. But if you don't get this shift, you will continue to be stifled from what you really want and will question yourself when you don't fall in line with what the majority is thinking. You'll be stuck in the shoulda, woulda, couldas, doubting yourself and your decision making at every turn. So we're conditioned. You're told that if you don't know all the answers, you're less than. You're trained to suck it up and never show weakness. And worst of all, we're taught that it's unacceptable to ask for help. But here's the thing you must get. These limiting thoughts, they're not even yours. They're simply the mental inception of old school tradition and training imposed upon your then impressionable mind. They are the imposition of the good old boy mentality forced upon you to have you pay your dues or follow the way we do things around here. They're control mechanisms that over time we have fallen to because, frankly, we didn't know any better back then. You see, the truth is, when we were going from one moving sidewalk to another, somewhere along the way we forgot one very important thing. We have choices. And when you wake up to this fact, then the possibilities open up that you have never even considered. So let's talk about another case example. A female doctor, not quite a mom at the time, but early out of medical school, when she came to me was pre-residency and she was having trouble passing her step 2 boards. Now, when she came to me, she was really doubting herself, feeling inadequate, and even feeling a little guilty because she had spent all of this money and all of this time, and she felt like she was wasting her precious time and talent. But as we worked together, what we uncovered was that the path that she was interested in was not the path that she was actually walking. She was interested in a non-clinical, more integrative, and business path rather than the traditional clinical path. So what we uncovered was this was interfering with her motivation to study, not a lack of knowledge. And as we worked together and dealt with the conditioning, not only of her medical school training, but also of her entire cultural family conversations, she really got clear about her purpose. And today she's very successful. She's an integrative wellness coach, an international speaker, and the most important thing is that she really loves what she does and is aligned in her values on a day-to-day basis because she's free from that mental conditioning that was holding her back from living a life of her purpose and her own design. So you must recognize and understand your conditioning before you can overcome it. And that means recognize that some of those old slogans you grew up with in your training are unfounded and worthless old ways of thinking. Now, the third shift that you must make is to be able to create and play by your own rules. Okay, ladies, I'm every woman is a lie. Furthermore, the only rules that are made to be broken are those imposed on you by those who don't honor who you are and all that you do. Look, being every woman has not served us. It has caused us to be self-sacrificing Lone Ranger superwomen. But the truth is, you don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate. So when you make this shift, you'll be able to breathe again. You'll have access to creating a career that you design rather than always playing by everyone else's rules. And in turn, you'll gain the freedom you've been looking for to have time with yourself and time for your family without feeling exhausted and overwhelmed. But if you do not make this shift, then you will run yourself into the ground feeling more exhausted at home and at work, potentially putting yourself and your patients at risk. You'll continue to be bogged down with commitments you don't even enjoy, keeping you overloaded, overworked, and overwhelmed. Look, we work long days. We bust our asses seeing patients. We deal with inbox, paperwork, charting, the daily bureaucracy, and politics with our bosses, our colleagues, and our staff. Then we stay late at work trying to finish whatever work needs to be finished, and we still end up bringing work home. But then we get home and we feel guilty for being away all day. So we overcompensate by being every woman at home, becoming the super mom, cooking, cleaning, bathing, trying to put the kids to bed. And if we're not able to do that, feeling ultra guilty about it. And furthermore, we do all of this all the while never asking for help. Because here comes the Lone Ranger part. After all, we really should be able to handle all of this. For God's sake, we are highly intelligent, highly educated, highly capable professional women, right? So we throw ourselves on the sword, trying to please everyone, yet neglecting ourselves. But here's the thing. How you do anything is how you do everything. So no matter whether you're staying in your current job, thinking about changing jobs, or thinking about leaving medicine altogether, if you don't get this shift, then you will take this behavior along with you wherever you go. And you'll find yourself in the same dilemma that you thought you were getting away from in the first place. And that's why it's important to learn that being selfish could actually save your life. Giving yourself permission to be selfish is essential if you want to do anything more than survive in your life. And if you want to thrive, this is actually a vital principle. When I say be selfish, I don't necessarily mean be self-centered or be inconsiderate, but what I mean is consider that you have needs, and the access to getting those needs met is in being willing to say no sometimes. One of the core principles in Alcoholics Anonymous and most other 12-step recovery programs is that saying no or setting boundaries is essential to maintaining a healthy recovery program. In AA, they don't consider sobriety as simply going without a drink. They consider sobriety as the state of being spiritually fit, such that you have the strength to stay away from the very thing that takes you into that mental obsession and leads you back to that compulsion of drinking. So in recovery programs such as AA, when that line of boundaries is blurred or in some cases non-existent, they call that codependency. As medical professionals, we have an addiction and codependencies of our own flavor. It's the codependency with our patients, the codependency with our jobs, and the addiction to needing to please other people and do things perfectly that lead us in the compulsion of saying yes when we really need to be saying no, taking on more than most humans can handle, and sacrificing our own health and needs and happiness for the happiness of other people. So being a little selfish is really about knowing what you need, knowing what you want, and then communicating that in an effective and firm, compassionate manner. When we give ourselves permission to be selfish, we can be more present with the people in our lives because our basic needs are also being met. So let's talk about playing by your own rules. Playing by your own rules really involves two things: knowing what you want and communicating that with power and grace. You can't play by rules you haven't created. And if you don't know what your needs are, then you can't even create those rules. So it's important to actually stop and consider what it is that you want. What dreams have you always had that you've given up on? What great idea did you push to the side thinking I'd get to that eventually? What aspiration have you been pushing back or putting on hold? And where have you put your needs or desires on the back burner? These are all questions that uncover what you want and need. So like I said earlier, playing by your own rules involves knowing what you want, knowing what you need, and communicating this with power and grace. If you don't know what you want, then you don't even know what rules that need to be created. You're not even on the playing field. And here's the caveat. It's possible that you have not been asked what you want in a very long time. Think about it. Remember when I was talking about that moving sidewalk that we've been riding on for the past decade or so? Well, consider that over that period of time, we were never asked what we wanted. We were simply told what to do. So when you think about it, you probably haven't really considered what you want or need in a very long time. I'm always surprised when I work with my mom docs how hard it is for them to really get clear about what they want and need specifically. Sure, they have a big picture overview of what would be nice, but when it really comes down to brass tacks of what they want for themselves and their lives, it's hard for them to articulate at first. They're simply out of practice. So when you get to know what you need, then you can actually begin to set the rules by which you will play. And one of the ways to set those rules is by setting boundaries with yourself and others. So setting boundaries with ourselves is perhaps the most important, because if we cannot set boundaries and enforce them with ourselves, then we absolutely won't do it with others. Here's why that's important. If we're not setting boundaries with ourselves, it's a clear indication that we don't value or respect our own needs or time. Think about it. If you know you need 8 hours of sleep, but you stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning doing charts, meanwhile, you have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go work a 10-hour day, your fourth in a row, then you are reinforcing to your brain that you are not important. So the only way to shift that is to do whatever it takes to be able to keep the promises that you make for yourself. Enforce the boundaries. Now, setting boundaries with others can be scary for many of us because, as I said earlier, we are conditioned to be perfectionist people pleasers. So in our mind, saying no could cause some grave upset that would end in tragedy and chaos. When in actuality, the scenario we play in our heads is nothing like what actually happens. When we say no to others, we communicate that our time is valuable and to be respected. When we set boundaries, we gain more confidence, we command the respect that we deserve, and we really gain our power back. So once you know what you want and need and are able to set those boundaries with yourself, then it becomes easier to make powerful requests of others that are in line with your values and in keeping with what you need to be well, happy, and fulfilled. Now, the secret to having people want to honor your boundaries is in the communication. There's a right way and a wrong way to communicate boundaries. Setting boundaries the right way will have the people in your life hear what you have to say and want to support you, while setting boundaries in the wrong way will piss people off and result in you being labeled disruptive or complaining, overly emotional, or even whiny. So the key here is that it's not always what you say, but how you say it. And the way to get results in creating boundaries is to create that boundary as a win-win. When you set boundaries, you don't want to be throwing up walls or burning bridges. You want to engage and enroll others in your needs, all the while helping them to see that by helping you, they too can benefit. Creating a win-win boundary requires two things: access to your emotional intelligence and skilled communication. Now, if you have a high emotional intelligence and no communication skills, your communication will come off as emotional, complaining, and whining. But conversely, if you have skilled communication and no emotional intelligence, then you will come off as cold, calculating, and manipulative. Now, I want to say a little something about being supported as a superwoman. Remember earlier I said I am every woman is a lie, and that it has trained us to be Lone Rangers, self-sacrificing superwomen. So it's easy inside of the superwoman syndrome to say, yes, I'm creating and I'm playing by my own rules. But remember, no man or woman for that matter is an island. We have to remember that we're human, and as such, we sometimes need help. We are notorious about keeping a poker face. You know the one. That's the I'm okay, I've got it, I don't need anybody's help face. But you have to understand something. We train the people around us. So if you constantly have your poker face on, then people won't know anything is wrong and won't know to extend their support. Similarly, if you're not recognizing the support that's being offered, you may be unconsciously refusing the lifeboat. You probably don't realize it, but people are always offering their help and support. John Gottman, in his research, called it bids for connection. And if you don't recognize these bids for connection, then you may be turning down the lifeboat. But here's the thing, if you turn down assistance and support enough, people will stop offering. So to get the help you need, you have to first be willing to admit when you're drowning. And this requires the willingness for you to be vulnerable. Uh-oh, there's that word. But ladies, before you go running for the hills, you need to know that vulnerability allows others the gift of being able to contribute to you. Contrary to popular belief, vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. So I want to talk about another case example here, a physician mom client working as a family physician in a rural area. She was working 4 10-hour days, on call every fourth night, backup call in between, rounding on patients on her days off, bringing charts home almost daily, and additionally, she was married with a toddler, so she'd come home exhausted to a family that immediately needed and wanted her attention. What we needed to do was get her clear about her needs, have her create her boundaries, and then train her how to have these boundary setting conversations that would have her husband and her work partners hear and be jumping to support her. So we worked together to create her self-care plan. And then we mocked the conversation that she needed to have with her husband so that she could gain that confidence. And what ended up happening was her husband was 100% on board, contrary to her own fear, and he became her biggest cheerleader. He took on making dinners every night so that when she got home, she could take a half-hour walk to decompress. And in addition, he took on cleaning the kitchen afterwards so she could go upstairs, have a little bath, and have some alone time with her daughter before putting her to bed. This left her with more energy. So at the end of the day, once she had had her bath and put her kid to bed, she was able to be present and spend more time with her husband. She created that win-win boundary. She created new rules for her well-being and for their relationship and their interaction. So the big shift here is to be willing to take off your superwoman cape and be a little selfish. Create and play by your own rules. And if you want help, you have to stop being that Lone Ranger, self-sacrificing superwoman and be willing to be vulnerable and supported. This requires knowing what you need, knowing what you want, and being willing to set boundaries first with yourself and with others. The way you communicate your boundaries to others can make the difference between you having people want to support you and them alienating you. And this takes two things: high emotional intelligence and skilled communication. Now, the fourth shift that you need to make is to become an architect. If you want to create a career and life of your design, then you must give up being a builder and become an architect. A builder merely puts pieces together, while an architect designs a blueprint. Let's talk about the old way versus the new way of thinking. The old way of thinking is to build your life around your career. And the problem with this is that it results in you squeezing life in rather than enjoying it. It's completely illogical, actually, when you think about it. But the new way of thinking is to script your ideal life, then build your ideal career around that. Then you can enjoy time with your family, your kids, and actually get to do the things that you like to do while still enjoying your work as well. So becoming an architect requires that you have a blueprint. And your blueprint needs three things: a strategy, that's the how, a structure, that's the what, and a system, that's the process. The strategy serves as a guidepost for your goals and your outcomes, while a structure gives you the organization to implement, and a system brings it all together and makes it effortless. So when you're armed with these three things, then you have access to creating a career and thus a life of your design. And you can feel free of the stuckness of the inherited default way of living that was deemed by our predecessors. Now, one of the big things that holds people back from creating a life of their design is fear. But true architects feel the fear and do it anyway. The truth about fear is this: it's simply false evidence appearing real. And the thing that I found that we seem to fear the most as medical professionals is failure. But really, failure is only feedback. So in becoming the architect, you must learn to source yourself. Stop sabotaging with the stinking thinking and the limiting beliefs. Open your mind and be willing to think outside the box. Undermine your fear. Ask yourself, what lies are you telling yourself, and what is the truth really? Reverse your resignation and be willing to see possibility. Collaborate creatively. Stop trying to do it all by yourself and exterminate excuses. There's a quote that I love about excuses, and you may recognize it, and it goes like this: excuses are tools of the incompetent, monuments of nothingness that build bridges to nowhere, and those who use them seldom amount to anything. So in order to become an architect, you must have a blueprint, and that requires the three S's: strategy, structure, and a system. You must feel the fear and do it anyway. Remember, failure is only feedback, and fear is false evidence appearing real. And finally, you must learn to source yourself. Now, the fifth shift that you need to make is to be willing to get a second opinion. Invest in a coach or mentor. Let's face it, we as medical professionals, we are I can do it all by myself kind of people. We don't need nobody's help, especially us independent women. We pride ourselves in our knowledge. We learn and know our craft very well, and it serves us. It's essential. It saves lives. But Einstein once said, no problem can be solved from the same consciousness level that created it. And when it comes to applying knowledge to our own problems, knowing makes no difference. Knowledge is not necessarily power. Think about it. Most people know how to lose weight, diet and exercise, calories in versus calories out. Yet with all of this knowledge, we continue to be the most obese country in the world. Similarly, most people know how to quit smoking, but how many times have you seen people try and fail multiple times before they finally reach out for some external support with a medical professional? Again, knowing makes no difference. Similarly, action without insight leads to Einstein's insanity trap, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. The thing is this: you may know theoretically how to make changes. You may even take actions based on that knowledge. You may find another job, you may make changes in your household, but unless you get to the root cause of what's in between you and effective action, you will continue to fall back into old habits, leading you to the very suffering that you were attempting to extinguish in the first place. Remember when we were in school and we used to diagnose ourselves with every condition we read about in our pathology and pathophys textbooks? That was before we really had a full insight on diagnosis and treatment. What about those patients who come in with their WebMD self-diagnoses? You may roll your eyes, but they think they know. They can't see that they have a limited insight. The truth is, everyone has blind spots. You have blind spots. And that's why it's not just smart, but it's essential to get that objective view with a mentor or a coach. In my opinion, everyone should invest in a mentor or a coach. I myself, even with all of my tools, all of my training, all of the years coaching others, I still have a mentor. And that's because coaching brings two things: new ideas and accountability. Look, there are new ideas in your head right now that you would not have had if you didn't make time for this webinar. A good coach will listen to you in a way that you have not been listened to by anyone else before, and will give you great ideas and make sure you act on them. A great coach will also put together a powerful group of people all working towards similar goals, and this multiplies everyone's effectiveness exponentially. The moms in medicine we coach, they're creating their ideal careers and earning more income without having to work more hours. They're rekindling fires with their spouses and significant others. They're getting more time with their kids and more time for themselves. They're discovering what they love and taking up new hobbies. They're making new friendships and rekindling the friendships that had previously been lost because they were too busy for them before. Some of our moms in medicine are starting new entrepreneurial ventures and creating new streams of income, whether they choose to leave clinical medicine or have this be an additional stream of income. And these are things that could not have happened on their own without having invested in a good coach. So today I promised that we talk about the secret to creating a career you love even when you feel like the system is in shambles with no hope for reform. Why putting yourself first for once is vital, and how to make that shift without feeling selfish or guilty about it. How you can leverage your degree to create a profitable second career within or outside of clinical medicine if you desire. The real way to find fulfillment in your career without giving up being a doctor if you don't want to, or even if you completely hate your current job. How you can do all of this and still have more time for yourself without sacrificing time with your family, even if it feels like you don't have one more minute in the day. How to create time to take care of yourself and do the things that you enjoy without adding additional stress or overwhelm and without feeling guilty about it. I told you we talk about a step-by-step strategy for creating systems that will allow you to truly be present with your family and get your much-needed you time while still growing your income, enjoying what you do, leveraging your degree, and feeling like you are making a difference in your field and your career. Here's what you need to win. You need to first get out of your own way and get your mind right. Then you need to get off the mental hamster wheel and recognize and understand your conditioning. Then you must learn to create and play by your own rules. Fourth, you must become an architect and learn to source yourself. And finally, you need to get a second opinion and invest in coaching. And if you make these 5 shifts, these shifts are enough to lead you to that life of your design so that you can have more energy, feel more alive, eliminate the overwhelm causing you to burn out while loving what you do, experiencing more freedom in your life, and feeling like you make a difference in your career and your profession. So now you have a choice. You can either take this information I gave you and you can forget about it. It could just be another webinar, another hour of information. And if you do that, you're going to stay stuck exactly where you are. And if you do that, you're likely to stay stuck exactly where you are. You'll continue to hate your job, be overwhelmed, stressed, and exhausted. You'll continue to miss out on time with your family, your children's events. You'll continue to be miserable. So you could just take this information and pass it by and stay stuck. Continue to struggle until you're drowning in this abyss of depression and burnout. However, if you're ready to create that life of your design, spend more time with your kids, reconnect with your spouse, take time for yourself without feeling guilty about it, then I have something for you. My team and I have set aside some time in the next few weeks to speak with you personally about how you can apply these ideas to your life and your career starting today. Now, I gave you the 5 shifts in broad strokes. I showed you the big picture, but the truth is everyone's life and everyone's circumstance is different and unique. And so you need to know how to apply these shifts in your life individually, and that's what this call is for. And the cost is absolutely free. On this call, we'll look at what's not working and the impact that it's having on your life, and then we'll get total clarity about exactly what you want your life and your career to look like and the exact path that you should take to get there. And if you want us to help you, and if we think it's a good fit, we may invite you to be in our Stress-Free Mom MD Life by Design program. But there's a caveat. This is not for everyone. This call is for moms in medicine who operate with high integrity. That means they do what they say they're going to do. They show up. These are for moms who are at the source of their lives. They're action takers, 100% committed to doing whatever it takes to get the results they say they want. And moms who are willing to invest in themselves to get the life that they want. So if you're not willing to be honest about the real impact that your current circumstance is having on your life and the life of others around you, if you're stuck in only blaming others for your problems, and if you're not ready or willing to take action and invest in yourself to get the life you want, then this call is definitely not for you. Now here's why I'm doing this. As a physician mom, I know the frustration of a demanding career, demanding patience, bosses that don't really care that you're missing family time. I understand the frustration, the sadness, the guilt that comes with missing days and sometimes even weeks that you could be spending with your children or significant other. So if you want to experience what it's like to enjoy being a doctor without sacrificing being a mom or wife, all the while getting the time you need to take care of yourself and do the things that you love. If you want to learn how to put the systems in place to have you decrease your stress, your overwhelm, and allow you to enjoy what you do, all the while allowing you to work on your terms and create that life in that career of your design so that you could be present with your family at home, then go ahead and click the link below. When you click this link, you'll be taken to our booking page. And all you do is you check out the schedule, pick the time, and then you'll be taken to a form. This short form is our pre-call discovery form. And this is a form that we require to be filled out prior to being on the strategy session with us. The reason is this: we can get an idea of what's going on with you prior to the call so that we're able to go deeper, quicker, and get the best results in that hour call. The second reason is this: we have found that moms who take the time to fill out this form show a deeper commitment to getting the life they want and creating the life of their design. So go ahead and fill out that form. You'll get a confirmation email and you'll get several reminders as well. And then on the day of our call, we will give you a call and go through your strategy session with you. Now, I understand that sometimes it's difficult to make that jump. Sometimes that fear of the unknown really outweighs our desire for change. So I want to share with you one last story. Remember that emergency medicine mom that I told you about earlier? Well, as a result of her having that extra time and that extra clarity in her life, as a result of her being able to become more rested and balanced, what she discovered was that she was ready for a career change. So we continued to do the work to create her ideal job description. And what happened was, because she got clear about her ideal jobs, she began to see the opportunities out there that had been right in front of her face all along. She got a job offer that she had complete control over her schedule, and she did not have to sacrifice 1 cent of her income. In fact, she actually got a little raise. So I share this with you because she was courageous enough to step into the unknown. She did not know what it was going to look like to create that life of her design. But when she stepped into that unknown, when her commitment became bigger than her fear, then she was able to create this whole new life and career for herself. And she's ecstatic. So this is the perfect opportunity for you to break through that by clicking the link below and going ahead and scheduling that strategy call. Now, I want to end with a piece that I often do at the end of my live trainings. It's called Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters by Portia Nelson. There's a hole in my sidewalk. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in this same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall. It's a habit. But my eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. So what I want to leave you with is this. You have an opportunity. You've been living life this way for however long you've been living life. You've been suffering for however long you've been suffering. When will you choose to walk down a different street? Thanks for attending the webinar. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great rest of the week. Namaste.